Ladies and gentlemen, everyone in between and everyone in New Orleans, my name is Cobra, and I honestly don't know what I'm going to be doing for a Halloween special, so I thought, why not recite some horror stories about the spookier stuff that happened in my life. So, I already released like a little pre-game a few weeks ago about it, so here we are now. So I implore y'all to make your Halloween just a little spookier from your fellow mercenary snake man demon thing. Grab your candy, grab your bonfire, grab your blanket, whatever you need to feel comfortable, because it is story time with Cobra. It was 9:10 when I woke up in the morning, before dozing off to sleep, back to sleep. And over the course of 20 minutes in real time, I had the strange dream that became terrifying before I reawoke. So, essentially, I live in a part of town where getting to stores is within walking distance, and I am an avid walker. One of these stores was Home Depot, in which I don't remember why I was going there, but regardless, I remember carrying a few odd things. I had my backpack, a small metal box on a sling, and one of those large handheld flashlights, and a pistol case I use to store my pistols when I go to an airsoft game. I don't know why I was carrying these things, but regardless, it felt like each moment of this dream was like cutting scenes in a movie. And regardless, when I got closer and closer to Home Depot, things started to change. Normally, the pathway to get there was a clear path with no obstruction whatsoever, and it was already sunset at this point, before I knew it. And I walked out of the Home Depot like it cut to another scene. However, as I exited the store on heading home, a large hill suddenly sprouted, kind of shaped like a mountain, covered in grass with a single pine tree on top. And as I got to the peak, the sunset rapidly faded into nightfall like it was a time lapse. And over the course of a few seconds, I saw a bunch of hobos walk in from the road beside the Home Depot, with another large crowd of them heading towards the road before they all started partying around the parking lot with these big spotlights just shining over them. I don't know what came over me as I passed these hobos all the time, and I try to go and help them out with whatever I can. And normally they don't pay me no mind as I do them. But something deeply disturbed me in this instance, and I felt I needed to go and sneak away to home. As I turned around, a large hobo was in front of me. As I started rolling down the hill, and thinking that I got cleared, I started heading towards this gas station because it was like the only thing that was illuminated, you know? But in the distance, about like, let's say like 20 feet over, there was this one hobo that asked me for money. I immediately just ran for it, and I dashed all the way home before I dropped my pistol case, and it was that instant that I woke up. This was an odd dream. As I said before, I don't pay any mind to hobos. Matter of fact, I feel a great deal of pity for them. So I try to go and help them out with what I can. And so it's never an issue to me if I have to go and help a brother out. But in this instance, I just felt nothing but fear, and I am immediately dashed. One thing I do remember, though, that could possibly tell me something about this, is that my city of Winnipeg has a massive homeless issue. And other than that, that's the only thing that came to me. But again, I don't know why. Maybe it was because it's nighttime and, you know, things could get pretty sketchy in the night. But I still found it like rather out of character for me to just up and run away instead of just giving him some money. It was nighttime, and normally I take the transit to get from place to place, but for some reason, the bus was out in the countryside. I've never been to the countryside unless it was on a family trip or something, basically just like passing out by, because I've always been a city boy. But what was weirder is that I had just got off work, so it made even less sense of why I was getting driven through the countryside, let alone in one that was composed of nothing but a black sky, rows of crops, and an empty road with just me and the bus driver. As I sat in the bus, not knowing how long I've been here at this point, I hear a yellow bus, thinking that was my ticket home. I get off the bus, illuminating a red light in its headlights at this point, and boarded the yellow one. But this one had no lights. Matter of fact, I don't even remember if there was even a driver. Now, the thing that made no sense was why I was boarding a school bus. I haven't rode one of these since high school, and I graduated high school 4 years ago, and the last time I remember even riding a school bus was in 9th grade, so that's been 7 years ago. But regardless, it was already driving, and I was on the front row of the bus, in the dark. And at this point, the bus eventually started illuminating these lights that were also red lights. The background at this point was nothing but pitch black. I couldn't even see no crops no more, as it was just me and this black sky on this empty road. And I had no idea where this bus was taking me. I sure as hell knew that this wasn't taking me home, but it was taking me somewhere. I decided to go and close my eyes for a bit, and I'm gonna assume an hour passed by in this instance, where the bus abruptly stopped as another man, boarded it. Alarms started going on in my head as I tried to hide away from him. The boarder was this old man. I don't remember what he looked like necessarily. Maybe he was like, but I think vaguely, but maybe he was something like a bigger man. He was a little wider. I don't remember what he looked like. I don't even know if he said anything to me as I cowered in the corner, just staring at him. But the thing that disturbed me the most is that as I started to go and revisualize everything, and as his silhouette is slowly illuminated by this red light that the bus emanated, I realized that he has no face. Matter of fact, it was just like a completely blank face. There was nothing whatsoever, as he slowly just stared at me. Suddenly, I just woke up. And I never had an experience like that ever again. So, as much as I don't like to think that I am, I cannot deny that I've grown to be a rather superstitious person. Me being Catholic, I've grown to be in touch with my spirituality, and I absolutely love it. But that also comes with my curiosity for the supernatural. When I was a boy, I loved watching those top 10 paranormal insert X subject with YouTubers like Chills, Mr. Nightmare, Bizarre Bob, Nuke's Top 5s, those guys. And one day I saw a video talking about ghost games, and two of them stuck out to me. The first one was Dharma, and the second was a classic game. I should emphasize I don't play these games because I'm never one to go and play with the paranormal. Hell, if I was to see a Ouija board at a party, that's enough for me to just up and leave, because I'm not playing with that, as it's a nightmare for me. But regardless, these two stuck in my head because of how easy they are to play. And me having an internal dialogue, an internal conversation, phrases just constantly repeat in my head, like a broken radio. And I've grown to become very paranoid as a result, out of fear of accidentally reciting these phrases and starting a game. To put it into better context, I'm not going to get into Dharma, but the closet game is where you crawl into a closet and recite either one of two phrases to summon a demon into your house that will reside in your closet. It's said that after you recite the phrase, if you hear breathing, you should light a match and you get out as soon as you can, unless you be taken away by that demon, and you can never re-enter that closet again, for it is now their domain. I was 14 when this happened. It was at the peak of my YouTube horror obsession. And after a long trip from San Francisco, I decided to just go to sleep after just getting home. Because, jet lag, all that stuff. I just wanted to go to bed. I was tired after a whole day of traveling. My old home was set up in a way that my bed was right beside my closet. So here's my bed. Here's like the little hallway for me to get to my bed, and then there's a closet. It was like 4 a.m. when this happened, and I was in the point of my mind that I was just trying to go and just letting my mind wander until it gets tired out, and then until it gets tired, and I go to bed, and I drift to sleep. I'm in. But eventually, my mind ended up accidentally reciting one of those phrases to play the closet game. And despite me not being in the closet and just being beside it, I still accidentally felt like I started it. And instead of hearing breathing, I hear the voices of these ghostly voices of people whispering in my ear. My heart suddenly jolted awake as I tried to get it to stop, and I couldn't scream out of starting a commotion. So my only option was to shove my head under a pillow until they stopped. This also led to a later habit of mine where I don't do it too much no more, but I used to have like this little pillow, and I would always just put that on my side of the opposite side of my ear so that I couldn't like hear anything out of the other side of the ear, I haven't prayed to God in years at this point. My faith was at its weakest, arguably. But the moment I heard those voices, I desperately started praying to God till they stopped. My mind was empty at this point, and I felt no other thoughts till I drifted to sleep. The next morning, I tried to go on with life as normal. Eventually it did, but the thought never left my mind. I've been paranoid around closets ever since. My faith in God is steadfast now, and not a night goes by without me praying to the Lord. But to this day, my fears of summoning the paranormal still remain, and I still use the same methods I've used since I was 14 to prevent myself from doing it again. I genuinely wish I could forget these, but I know that will never be the case. To end off this story, I've been in my current home for years now, and my bed is on the complete opposite side of my closet. This story reminds me of my favorite Bible verse. You who live in the shelter of the Most High, who abide in the shadow of the Almighty, I will say to the Lord, my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. For he will deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from the deadly pestilence. For he will cover you in his pinions, and under his wings you will find great refuge. His faithfulness is a shield and a buckler. You will not fear the terror of the night, or the arrow that flies by day, or the pestilence that stalks in the darkness, or the destruction that wastes at noonday. Psalms 91, verses 1 to 6. I'm not going to go and start preaching, but this simple phrase has led me to not only not fear the paranormal, for simply my belief and trust in God is what keeps me steadfast, for I know that he got my back. But it's also the reason why I ended up writing my essay on faith, the unholy trinity. Again, while I still find myself to be very cautious with these ghost games, I've grown to be more at peace with it, for I know the Lord got my back. And before I end off this little special of mine, let me recite to y'all a little story that happened a few weeks ago during the night. So normally when I go to sleep, I usually just leave my computer on. But in this particular night, I decided to turn it off to give my computer a rest. So at this point, my room was completely dark, and except for the slight amount of moonlight that would just crack through my curtain. So eventually, I just drifted off to sleep as normal. But you know what they say? That when you wake up in the middle of the night, it means someone's watching you. That is kind of what happens in this instance. So it was sometime like 3 a.m. going 4 a.m. I just woke up randomly. I don't even remember what dream I was dreaming about, but I felt like there was this odd feeling in my stomach. So to give a little layout, I have a little wall that separates my room with my brother's, because I share a room with my brother. And there's this little perch that it basically acts as like the entrance to my side of the room. But at this perch, I saw a dark silhouette of what looks like someone peering above it. Eventually, it just dashed right across to the other side of my room, all the way to the end of my wall. So at this point, whatever this was staring down at me at the end of my bed. Alarms started going in my head as I realized it's like, I think I know what this is. This is a shadow man. And shortly before I knew it, I felt what felt like a hand pressing down on my stomach. And for the record, it was a very light pressure because I usually hug a pillow when I go to sleep. But in this instance, I could feel it pushing down on my stomach. And even more alarms started going on in my head now. And I didn't want to cause a commotion for my family, but I knew that in this instance, I was being attacked by some spirit. And what was the first thing that I did? I called upon the Lord. I tried to go and mutter my words, but I felt like my mouth was literally sewn shut before I could eventually just force it out. I was literally going, and I remember going like, Dear Lord Jesus Christ. That feeling of that pressure on my stomach went away instantly. And the last thing I remember before drifting back to sleep is that I stared at my altar. And then I just drifted back to sleep. And then when I woke up, it was like nothing ever happened. The next day, I just continued on with what I normally do. I ended up delivering a prop slingshot to my buddy Cybersaya for her Squirrel Girl cosplay, because we were cosplaying as Marvel Rivals. You guys would have already seen it at this point. And then I explained the whole ordeal to her. And that kind of concludes it. So, I thank you, everyone. For this is the first time I've ever done like a true story time, and I hope that it amplified your Halloween and made it just a little spookier. But you know me, I yap too much, so I'm just gonna leave it off here. So, thank you, everyone. And as I always say, ladies, gentlemen, everyone in between, and everyone in New Orleans, this has been Storytime with Cobra. And y'all have yourselves a happy Halloween.